February 21st, 2015, 2:33 a.m., New York City. A place that prides itself on never sleeping was about to witness a story that would defy all logic. Our story begins with Alex, a typical New Yorker, just trying to get home after a long night shift. He was tired, his feet ached, and all he could think about was his bed. The lobby of his pre-war apartment building was eerily quiet. The only sound, the distant wail of a siren fading into the city's hum. He jabbed the call button for the elevator, the old brass circle cool against his fingertip. The arrow lit up, and with a familiar groan, the metal cage began its descent. He didn't think twice as the heavy doors rattled open. It was the same elevator he rode every single day. The same scuffed linoleum floor, the same flickering fluorescent light overhead. The same faint smell of disinfectant and something old, like dust and memories. He stepped inside, turned, and pressed the button for his floor. Number 12. The doors slid shut, sealing him inside the small, claustrophobic box. As the elevator lurched upwards, a strange sensation washed over him. It wasn't the usual gentle ascent. It felt different. Slower, he glanced up at the display panel above the door, the one with the glowing red numbers that marked each floor. But they were gone. The panel was dark, a void of black plastic where the numbers should have been. A flicker of annoyance turned to a prickle of unease. "Great," he muttered, "just what I need." He pressed the 12 button again. Nothing. He tried the door open button. It was unresponsive. The elevator continued its relentless, silent climb, but to where? He felt a slight vibration through the soles of his shoes, the only indication he was moving at all. The light overhead buzzed and flickered violently, plunging him into a split second of darkness before sputtering back to life. In that brief, disorienting flash, he caught his reflection in the polished brass panel of the control board. But the face staring back wasn't his. His heart hammered against his ribs. The man in the reflection was older, his face etched with lines of terror, his eyes wide and hollow. Alex blinked, and his own familiar, tired face was back. He shook his head, trying to clear it. Too much coffee, he told himself, his voice sounding small and weak in the enclosed space. The elevator kept moving. It had to have been minutes now, far longer than it should take to reach the 12th floor, or even the roof. The light flickered again, this time for longer. Darkness, when it returned, the reflection had changed once more. It was a woman, her hair disheveled, her mouth open in a silent scream. Alex recoiled, stumbling back against the wall of the elevator. This wasn't a trick of the light. This wasn't his tired mind playing games. Something was profoundly wrong. He started banging on the doors, his fists thudding against the cold metal. "Hello? Is anyone out there? The elevator is stuck." His shouts were swallowed by the oppressive silence of his journey. Panic began to set in, cold and sharp. He could feel the movement stop, but it wasn't the familiar, gentle halt of arriving at a floor. It was a sudden, jarring stop, as if the elevator had run into a solid wall. Then, a new sound. A low, guttural groaning, like stressed metal, echoed around him. The air grew cold, and a strange, metallic smell filled his nostrils. He stared at the doors, his breath held tight in his chest. What was on the other side? Every horror movie he'd ever seen flashed through his mind. He was trapped, utterly and completely trapped. The light flickered one last time, and in the brass panel he saw a crowd of faces, dozens of them all twisted. In fear and despair, their eyes all fixed on him as if he were their last hope or their next victim. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the worst. Then, with a deafening screech that grated on his nerves, the doors began to open. But it wasn't the hallway of his floor that greeted him. It was the street. He was outside, on the pavement in front of his building. A wave of relief, so intense it made him dizzy, washed over him. It was over. It was just a bizarre malfunction, a waking nightmare. He took a deep, shuddering breath of the night air, expecting to hear the familiar sounds of the city. But there was nothing. No distant sirens, no car horns, no rumble of the subway. Absolute, profound silence. He looked around. The street was empty. Not just quiet, but completely deserted. Cars were parked along the curb, their lights off. A newspaper lay on the sidewalk, frozen mid-tumbled by an unseen wind. He looked up at the towering skyscrapers. Thousands of windows stared back at him like vacant eyes, not a single light on in any of them. The entire city of New York, the city that never sleeps, was still. Frozen. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The time displayed on the screen was 2:33 a.m. The exact time he had stepped into the elevator. He looked back at the entrance to his building. The elevator doors were closed. It was as if he had never been inside. He was alone in a silent, abandoned replica of his world. The elevator hadn't malfunctioned. It hadn't gone up or down. It had gone somewhere else entirely. He had stepped out of his reality and into this silent, lonely echo. Some rides never end. They just trap you in another reality. Where did he go? And more importantly, could he ever get back? We may never know. Thank you so much for joining me on this unsettling journey. If you enjoy stories that explore the strange and unexplained, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss our next descent into the unknown. Stay curious and stay safe.